Okay, we are back. Today I'm joined, I'm Chad Pytel, the thoughtbot developer and CEO. And today I'm joined by Jimmy Thigpen. Jimmy, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, great to be here.
Jimmy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. So I'm a developer on thoughtbot's Ignite team. It's thoughtbot's smallest team. We work on, quick iteration projects. We work on, we also work on the thoughtbot incubator, which is a newish 8-week program we've been running. So I think we're on our third one now, but yeah, the thoughtbot incubator is pretty cool. If you go to thoughtbot.com/incubator, you can read more about that. But about me, developer on the Ignite team, I've been with thoughtbot for about 2 years. Live in Colorado, a lot of JavaScript and Node work, a little bit of Rails, but not nearly as much as some thoughtbot folks. So yeah, I'm excited to do some pairing.
Well, I got your back on the Rails code that we're going to do today. It's mostly Ruby. What we're going to be working on today is something that you came with, the Hub app that we worked on last time, last time on the stream. Like I said, we have this monolithic Rails application. It connects to a lot of different things and systems that we use at thoughtbot. So we call it Hub because it's like the hub of the big spoke system. And one of the things it does is it connects to our Slack and publishes announcements, that kind of thing. So we are going to all that Slack integration is a legacy Slack app, which I think is in danger of being being removed at any point. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But you have the idea. I haven't showed folks this. Let me share my screen. So if we go over, we've got to go to the real hub.
The real hub. Let's see.
So one of the things that we have in Hub is this quick search, which hits a search service that we have. But in addition to actually searching just based on keywords, you can ask it questions. So can you think of a question to ask it?
How about vacation days?
Okay, how many vacation days do I get? So you just have to end your question with a question mark, and what it's going to do is it's going to it's going to do a search based on the question that you ask against all of our documentation. It's going to find relevant documents, and then it's going to say to ChatGPT, using this relevant documentation, answer this question. And it gets a response. So full-time employees in the US accrue 20 days of vacation per year. Your vacation accrual increases to 25 days per year on your third anniversary at thoughtbot. So it was able to answer that question. One of the nice things is the prompt that we're using there says, do not answer if you don't know the answer to the question, and give me the URL for the page where you're able to find this thing. So that combats something that can happen with ChatGPT is hallucinations and not being able to cite where the information came from. So when we give ChatGPT the context, we're also giving it the URLs. We're saying, here's some information about our timeout policy. Here's the page it can be found on.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
It can link it here to where it's actually finding the answer.
So it's just not like a black box. So you're like, oh, I can actually see what it's referring to.
Yeah. And if it wasn't able to find the answer in the documentation that we provided, it would have said, the information, the answer to your question is not in the documentation provided. If you don't say that, it very well will make something up. It's pretty funny. So your idea is to make it so we can ask these questions in Slack.
That's the idea, yeah. And I think maybe people might use it more. I don't know if everyone knows about this feature in Hub.
Right.
And I had the thought like maybe you're out on the go and you don't want to have to deal with getting into Hub and all that, but you have your Slack up on your phone. You can just shoot a message to Hub to see what you want.
Yeah. So we're going to dive into that. That's the overview of what we're going to do. We appreciate the help and the questions along the way. So if you got any questions, if we're stumped and we need your help, please drop the help in the chat. We're more than happy to get it, along with questions along the way. You see something you don't understand, you see something you want to dive into more, you think you see a bug. Someone on the stream last week totally said, what happens if you do this? And we did it, and it was totally a bug in the UI. And the person was like, I used to work in help desk. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Nice.
So yeah, so let's go over to the code and get a lay of the land here. Sound good?
That sounds good.
So one of the things that is generally good practice, and I'm happy to say we did it on this app, is when integrating with external services. So we have a gem file. We're using the Slack Ruby client gem. And the Slack Ruby client gem has a Slack client class. And it would be natural, like the easiest thing to do is to just use that everywhere you want to talk to Slack.
Mm-hmm.
But it's usually better to make a lightweight wrapper class around the external gem that you're using to communicate, because then you're not creating a direct dependency on that gem all throughout your application, wherever you're talking, for example, to Slack or another service.
I see. So if you need to upgrade the gem or strip it out
or change to a different service, say we're like, we're not using Slack anymore, we're going to Campfire or something like that, we could change our communication in one place instead of having to go everywhere if we wanted to change gems or that kind of thing. So we've done that here. We have a Slack client class.
Cool.
And so I know with confidence, unless we've messed something up, that we're not communicating directly with Slack anywhere in the application. Everywhere is using the Slack client class.
Got it.
And the Slack client class uses the gem, the class provided by the gem. So it's wrapping it and providing that.
Cool. I'm curious if if the gem supports the new Slack apps.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
I actually brought up the documentation for it before. So a Ruby client for the Slack web, real-time messaging, and events APIs. And usage.
Okay.
So
create a Slack app.
Yeah. So it looks like it does.
That's great. Yeah.
And it does have the ability to use an API token.
Okay.
You had linked me to this migration.
Yeah. So I think, I was poking around and saw our existing legacy bot, and there was some documentation on moving that to a Slack app.
Yeah. And one thing that jumped out at me is it says, if you were using a legacy token to make calls with the web API, which I think is what we're doing, you'll need to generate a new one for your modern Slack app. Follow our guide to the OAuth flow. And then to simplify testing and development, you can quickly and easily create a new app and install it in 2 clicks. Let's put that to the test.
Yeah,
we'll count the number of clicks. And so in theory, for the existing, so I think my sense of what we should do is we want to move to a new, and let me know what you think about this, move to a new Slack app away from the legacy Slack app without changing without breaking any of the existing functionality.
Yes. And so I think that would just involve creating a Slack app, maybe switching out our token, and then seeing if what we have still works in a sense.
I think so. Yeah. Hey, Mike. Thanks for joining us. And happy Friday to you too.
Hey, Mike.
Okay, so follow the getting started guide. What can the Slack platform do? The next generation Slack platform.
Getting started. Okay.
Are you ready? Okay, we've already clicked once. So
Yeah.
this is our second click. Okay, install the Slack CLI. Do we really have to do that? Because we're going to need to generate a token. And I bet we need to use the CLI to do it.
I'm pretty sure you can do this in their web interface
Oh, yeah?
as well. I've never used the CLI. And I
The
did.
create command is how you could create a next generation Slack app.
Okay, so this is just how to do it in the terminal.
Yeah. Do we not want to do that? Do we want to do it through the web UI?
I'm down with either way.
People are going to see our Slack, Jimmy.
It's dicey. I feel like there was some other documentation I linked on that issue about this, but it might just lead us to the same place.
Create a new app.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is the same place.
Cool. Well, let's go. I think you go up here to build.
Yeah.
And
we're going to build something amazing.
mm-hmm.
That's good.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to not build something amazing. Oh, I'm feeling sarcastic today. I can tell.
I can tell.
I think in part because I actually really dislike Slack. So the fact that we're working on it really makes me a little sarcastic, I think. And just to clarify, one of the reasons why I dislike it is because I think it can be a distraction.
Okay, let's see. Probably from scratch.
Yeah. Okay.
I would call this just hub, or if
maybe new hub. It says, "Don't worry, you can change this later." So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we don't want to get too confused. All right.
Got it. Okay.
Sweet.
Post messages from external sources into Slack. Bots allow users to interact. Enable socket mode. We are going to receive your app's payloads over WebSockets connection. Enable socket mode for your app.
Let's see.
I don't think we're going to need to do that because we're going to use ngrok.
Yes. And we're basically trying to figure out how our app can talk to users from the app home tab, which is, well, not the app home tab, just the messages tab. So we need to find somewhere that talks about, well, actually, I think I linked that on the ticket. There's a page that talks about that, how your bot can't communicate with Slack.
Okay. Do we want to change the existing functionality first before we do that?
That's a good point. No. So we need to see, is there a way to view what our current app scope like which scopes our current bot
Please
uses.
add at least one feature or permission scope to install your app.
Mm-hmm. I think we can go to the manage link up there at the top and maybe view our existing integration. Your app's up here. If we look at, let's see, where is our current integration? It doesn't look obvious. There's like 2 different versions of this screen and Slack doesn't make it obvious. Okay, I have our existing integration pulled up on my screen at least. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see anything about scopes. You're just like, I'm going to install this thing. Oh, you're muted, Chad. Still no sound. I can hear things. I just played some music on my computer. I can hear things. But I cannot hear you. Yeah, I think Chad's going to jump off and jump back on. Just give him a minute. Troubleshooting his audio.
Well, sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. You can hear me now, though, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. That was weird.
What
Sorry
was
to leave
it?
you hanging there.
That's okay. I figured.
All right, let's get this back on the screen. So you were looking at how to add scopes. I ended up finding a link that can add the app to our workspace without adding scopes. I don't know how I did that.
Cool.
I think generally speaking, we probably want a test channel. There might even be one.
Slack a test. Or we can make one.
We can make one. You want to make one?
Yeah, making one. Alrighty, it is called Slack Hub Test.
Awesome. We will. So I've decided on the fly here. We are going to change the token after we show it on the stream because it has just been shown on the screen. So
Perfect.
and it's only in that test channel. So even if people were to get it, we'll just have to rotate the token after we're done here.
Sure, that sounds good. Okay, so what have we done? We made the app, we installed the app.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we've done, I think. So our app needs to be able to communicate with Slack as a bot. So I think we need to give it some permissions.
Yeah, how do we do that? Oh, scopes right here.
So,
Oh, I had
yeah.
already turned on incoming webhooks, so that's probably why I was able to add the app because I
okay.
toggled that on. So for the existing functionality, that's all we need is incoming webhook bot token scope.
Cool.
So in theory, we should be able to set that token. Actually, and go to Rails console. Let's go back to that Slack room. Oh, Slack
Hub test.
Okay, so we've got that there. And so now if we go to Rails console and we say, what's the syntax here? It's Slack client.post. I always forget whether, yeah, it does need the hash. Slack hub test.
You can try that.
Test. Missing scope.
Cool. Does it tell us which scope is missing?
It did not say which scope.
All right.
It's possible that, oops. If we go back here,
are you in the OAuth and tokens section?
yeah, I'm in the scopes section.
Okay. So let's see. I think you might need the chat.
Right. Yeah.
Scope. There's a channel join scope, but I guess we don't need that because it's already in the channel.
It says, please reinstall your app for these changes to take effect.
Yes. Anytime we update a scope, we'll have to do that.
Okay.
And you might be able to just click that link at the top that says reinstall. I think that might take us through the flow. Yeah.
Not in channel.
Okay. So We can try the channels join scope, but also I might be able to invite him as a user.
I got it.
You got it? Cool.
Looks like that worked.
Yay.
So within the app, can we set like a logo and stuff?
Yes, so that would be under basic info. You scroll down a little bit and you'll see a section for the name and the icon.
I have the logo here somewhere.
It should be like the hub logo with sparkles because it's a new hub. Oh, great use for Midjourney.
Oh, yes. Okay, it's not coming up quick, so I'll go get it. And then, of course, we need to set the right color.
The proper red.
Ugh. What? Huh. Oh, is this the like background information for the, okay. We don't want the red for,
We need our
that
secondary then. Dark gray, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, whew. That's better.
Perfect.
Field can't be empty.
So this bot, when I made this issue on Hub, I was thinking people would ask the questions only by going to the app and then like there's a message tab there in Slack.
Right.
Versus like, just asking a question in some random channel.
So like this screen here.
Yes. So we need to maybe figure out, I know how to turn that on. We need to figure out maybe how to post a message to this channel.
Feel free to, if you want to use my browser, feel free to take control.
Take control, I think. Okay, I'm going to click where you had the, let's see. I think.
There you go.
We go up here to app home. There we go. And then in here, well, Hub can be always online if we want. And then this, okay, here we go. Allow users to send / commands and messages from the message tab. So this would let us send something to Hub. Hub can process that and reply back. The home tab is pretty cool. If you wanted to, like, you can build an interface and do all this other cool stuff if we eventually wanted to do more. And then, do you want the bot to always be online?
I don't see why not.
Sure. Okay. So if we go back to Slack.
You don't need to click save or anything?
I don't think so. Okay. I was curious. But let's reload this and see if we can message Slack now.
Yeah.
Or Hub. Here we go. Okay. Cool. Now let's maybe try sending a message to a user from here. And that's a little different than what we just did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a bunch of stuff going on in my brain. We could try that, or we can continue. Are you satisfied with the functionality we have so far compared to like what exists?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident we didn't just break what already exists.
Cool. Okay.
The only thing is we'll need to add the new app to any channels that the old app was on, but we can do that later.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you can get a list of all the channels that the old app was on.
Cool. Yeah, so I guess we could either try to see a message that you send to New Hub. We'll basically have to add a scope maybe to the app so we can see the messages. And then I think that would be cool. And then we could maybe work on after that, maybe the GPT stuff or just replying to your message.
That sounds great.
Cool.
So we need to add the scope to be able to receive messages.
Maybe let's go back here and see. What scopes do we have right now? So New Hub can send messages as New Hub, and New Hub can post messages to specific channels. I think it's more like a subscription. Like if you send a message to New Hub right now, I wonder where it goes.
Yeah, we didn't set up a URL.
Yeah, so that, let me think of where that would be in here. I think it's under event subscriptions. So if we go, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Be notified. Okay, here we go. It might be this one.
Like new messages in a channel.
Okay. And I think what we'll need is, yes, message.channels. It's weird that it's a bot event, but I think that's what we want. Message.channels. Message was posted to a channel. Cool.
So that's going to go for when you're talking directly to the bot?
Yes,
okay.
I think. Yeah, this is from memory of like my tinkering with Slack bots. A message was posted to a channel. So our app now, I think we'll have to figure out a URL to post to. Maybe we can like ngrok something. So the way this works is they're going to send us a challenge the instant you put a URL in here and click out of it. So this will only work after we have that challenge set up.
Okay.
What that looks like.
And are we going to need to always respond to that challenge, or is it a one-time thing? Do you know?
It's a one-time thing when you enable events or change the URL.
So even when we do this in production and change it to a production URL, it's going to do a challenge again.
Yeah, it's like code we will want in Hub to kind of just be in there if we're to tinker with this again.
So we'll send a challenge parameter and your endpoint must respond with a challenge value. Let's click on learn more and see.
Yeah.
What do we need to respond with?
What endpoint do they?
With the challenge attribute, then respond in plain text with the challenge attribute value.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, so they're basically just going to send us a request and we need to bounce it back.
I wonder whether the gem that we're using gives us any
Oh,
functionality to
yeah, we might
do
want to look
this.
at that repo's README and see.
The word challenge doesn't appear.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking a little bit at the docs on my page. Let's see. Well, I think we should maybe just set up an ngrok URL and post it and see what Slack sends to us.
Sure. So I think it'll, in order to actually get something, it might be good if we make a controller.
Something, yeah, so
Actually,
we could reuse that maybe.
the Rails log will show us what we get, even if we don't have a controller.
Cool.
So I'm curious, app controllers.
Yeah, as long as the JSON's like, if we can see that.
Yeah. So what do we think we
request.
want a URL for this to be? Slack events, Slack _ events.
Yeah, something like that would be perfect. Like /event/Slack event.
Okay, so got to remind myself how ngrok works. Ngrok, and we then say HTTP. Actually, do you know the syntax? Oh,
You'll want to tell it the port that you want it to forward to. So whatever hub is running on.
It's 5,000.
And then the URLs, that's the one. Yeah. I think Slack will want an HTTPS.
Well, it's not going to get it. No, actually, ngrok does that. So that's nice.
Okay, we didn't respond. What did they send to us?
We need to look at the development log for that. Oh, it's because it's failing host authorization because it's not one of the allowed hosts. This is a feature of Rails to
protections.
Yeah, so that your app doesn't respond to actually don't know where off the top of my head to set it. So let's look that up. It's not called allowed hosts anymore.
Oh, what is it called?
Host authorization. This middleware guards from allowed hosts in development. That's a constant. This is new. I haven't actually customized this on a Rails app recently.
Are there any other external services that poke at hub that would be in here?
Config.hosts. Yeah, this is so the this is what I remember. Like this.
Okay.
But I'm worried that that's not in Rails 6 action pack introduce action pack dispatch host authorization, And by default only allows that. So you can do that. So let's give that a try in development.rb.
Cool.
Yeah, we're not currently doing anything to, so it's just the defaults. Do you remember what it was? It was .ngrok.free.app. Yeah, ngrok recently went free. It used to be for certain things like forwarding port 80 and stuff. I think they've recently made certain things that used to be paid are free now. Of course, don't quote me on that because I could be completely wrong.
I noticed that. I think I had an ngrok session running for like a day straight, and usually they would time out or expire.
Okay, so then we're going to need to restart the server. And we're tailing the development log now. And now we can go back to Slack, tell it to retry. Cannot render console from 44. Wow, there is extra security here.
Is that what just popped up from that retry?
Yeah. So it looks like something is blocking rendering the raw params from an unknown IP address. Which makes sense because if you were just rendering stuff from posting from random IP addresses that you don't expect.
I'm trying to think of like a malicious use case for that.
So it was. And we need to restart the server again. Let's give that another try then.
Let's see.
Oh,
it
changed.
Oh no. Can you like
allow all?
Yeah, or maybe it's like the first part doesn't change.
You can whitelist single IPs or whole networks. I wish you could just do .star. I wonder if.
Try it.
But this whole thing changes except the 44.
Can you do like 44.210.star?
The 210 also changed. It used to be 44.195.
Okay.
I wonder whether there's a way to just turn this off entirely. This is what it says.
Yeah.
Whiny requests equals false. If you don't want to see this message anymore. That to me reads like you're just turning off the message, not the.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to the actual documentation, shall we?
Can't always trust Stack Overflow, yeah.
You can allow single or whole networks. Hey, Robbie. Hey, Asdrin. Thank you for joining us today. If anyone knows how to enable the permissions for the console logging from any IP address, we'd love to hear it.
Would this be an issue, Chad, if we made that new
Controller?
Yeah, to just receive the request? Because we'll have to make that anyways, right?
It's a good question. Another thing we could try is see whether with a no, it doesn't matter. Oh, see, that time it complete. So this must just be from like every time a request comes in to ngrok, it's routing it through some sort of server. So the IP address keeps on changing.
With a controller setup, we would just be able to log in the controller, right?
Yeah. So let's try that. So I will want to write a spec for the controller eventually, but since what we're actually trying to do is just log the results, let's just add the controller. So we'll make app controllers Slack directory. We'll touch app controllers Slack events controller.
Nice.
And that inherits from application controller. The reason we just need to make sure, I think application controller includes, it includes authentication by default. So we need to look at our API. If we look at our API controller for an example.
Yeah,
then,
okay.
Is it doing a post? Do you remember? Yeah, post. Sorry, I was moving quickly. See?
Oh, you're good.
Post.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what we want. That controller exists now. And hopefully it'll print out the params. Actually, just for good measure, let's print out the request.
Nice.
And retry that. Oh, I didn't add a route for it.
I felt like something was missing, but unknown territory, slightly known. Okay, so we added the controller and now we're adding a route.
Yep.
So Rails knows where to funnel the request.
And I don't know if you noticed, but I made a Slack module. And so a route that goes to a directory is automatically in a module. And the way that we can express that in the routes is with the namespace.
Cool.
We shouldn't need to restart the server for changing routes. And so let's try it again. Boo.
Same old thing?
Same thing.
Lame. Is this an issue when working with other services that post to Slack or post to Hub?
So I'm not sure that I have. We do have a service, other services that send webhooks to Hub. Um, I'm not sure that I have recently done that in development.
Mm.
The last time I did it, I didn't run into this. I just had to add the ngrok domain to the hosts, allowed hosts.
Gotcha. Okay.
Let's just try again after restarting the server just to be safe. So I would have expected. We were. I wasn't quite paying attention. I'm having this problem on my computer, and I haven't been able to permanently fix it. It's Puma crashes.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to fix it,
what is Puma?
The web server that Rails uses. So basically, exporting this seems to fix it. But I put it in my Z shell, and it doesn't seem to stick for some reason, and I haven't had a chance to look into it further yet. But I hope that wasn't the well, I sort of hope that it wasn't the problem. Let's go back.
It's weird. So it's in your Z shell, yeah. So you shouldn't have to like export it manually every time.
Okay, it worked that time.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So we have our challenge with stuff that we need. I think we just want to respond to that. And okay.
So I'm assuming, based on what we briefly looked at, that we either need to respond with this, or that this is a HMAC 256 encoded thing using the token, and that we're going to need to decrypt that and send back the decrypted value.
Yeah. Do you want to check the docs again? Because I don't remember what it said.
Slack adds a Slack signature HTTP header. The signature is created by combining the signing secret with the body of the request sent using.
Was this
okay. So that's just used for verifying the request.
Okay.
So in theory, we don't need to. We probably should.
Yeah, that's like something we could add later. Is this specific about the challenge? Or
this was the challenge. So we have a token, the challenge, and the type. That's what we're receiving, and that's what we saw here, token, challenge, type.
Got it. Okay, so once we receive it, we verify it, and then respond in plain text with the challenge attribute. Okay, so we just reply back.
Okay, so let's, because we want this functionality to stick around, right? So let's add a spec for the controller spec. Requests. It's going to be a request spec because we want just a simple focused request spec. We need to make that directory.
So you're making a new directory just for the requests?
Yeah, because no, not for the request, for this. Since the controller is in a Slack directory, then I like to put the specs that match that also in a Slack directory.
That makes sense. Yeah, for other folks.
And we can do we don't need to name it anything specific. It's not a controller spec. So we could say URL verification spec.rb. For some reason, the clicking to open isn't working right now. Okay, so we require Rails helper. I'm going to have to peek at another request spec.
Good. That makes me feel human.
Yeah. So our spec knows that it's a request spec because it's in a requests directory. So we don't need to do anything in particular to get request spec stuff there. And then the syntax is going to be post with the path and then parameters as a hash. So we want to respond
to
your with the challenge.
Yeah.
Parameter. Now, I bet if we respond to Slack's, watch this. Oh, actually.
Are you co-piloting?
Yeah. It's sort of fun.
Is it more fun than annoying? Oh, that's okay.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good, yeah. That might be right.
I think that's right, actually.
Because it's not using just the context of Hub, it's using what it has been trained on through other.
That's right. It's using the context of the existing code and what I wrote for the string description. And so I ran the specs. It's got back a empty string because we're not doing anything. And so now if we go over here, I think we say, well, I'm not going to write it that way.
So we're just creating our request so we can test it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So I expect this to pass. Nope. So it's missing the template. Oh, I said, oh. We need to return. So by default, Rails is going to try to render the template if we don't return. No, wait, that doesn't make sense to me. The render of the text.
Is it just generating text for the test here?
It should be taking the actual param, the challenge thing out of it and rendering that as text.
Cool.
But what it's trying to do is then render, create an actual template. But I don't want it to do that.
Yeah, we're not rendering. We just want to.
We do want to render the as a text body the challenge that we got.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm going to bring up Dash and just look at the render method, action controller, render. Okay. That's the wrong one.
Oh, do we want render?
No, we want what we're doing, as far as I know. I think we're just missing something.
Can we reference one of those existing?
Sure. Yeah. Let's. So I'm just going to the API controller. See,
Cool.
we should just be able to say render, just like we're doing render JSON. We should be able to say render text.
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh. I wonder if the reason why is because it is trying to do the format of the request is HTML, whereas on all those, the format of the request is JSON. So
do we need to specify JSON somewhere?
no, we want to specify, we want to respond to actually, really, I'm going to take off my sweatshirt. Getting warm.
Okay.
I'm getting warm because I don't know what to do. I'm sweating. You think text? Mishu says, I think text should be plain. I think Mishu might be right, actually. That sounds like that.
What's the difference between text and plain?
Text might not be a valid value at all.
Oh, okay. That might have been it.
Thank you, Mishu.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. So yeah, text wasn't a valid value, but since we're just passing in a hash of stuff, it wasn't checking to tell us that it was an invalid value. So
cool.
Plain. Okay, so now we're responding with the right thing. So now if we go over to our Slack app and we click on retry, I think it's going to verify. Yep.
Nice. Alrighty, save changes. And then we'll have to reinstall since we added a scope. And if it's hooked up the right way, then we should be able to then send a message to new hub, and see that request in our console for hub.
Here we go. So we received a message
from user, okay. And
so yeah, it tried to, because it's not a URL verification, it tried to render the create template and didn't, there isn't one. So it just responded with nothing. So
cool.
That worked.
Yeah. Well, I guess, yeah, what's the next step? We could just respond with something random, go down the road of talking to the GPT integration and processing the text.
Yeah, the one thing that's interesting there is I'm not seeing the word yo, which is what I typed, and I think the reason why is the event is actually a bot added message, so added an integration to this channel.
Okay.
So my yo didn't. This wasn't actually my yo, and that's not coming across there.
If you look at ngrok, do we see a request coming in to there? It would be, we would see a new post request pop up.
So there are ones right here,
Okay.
but they're we don't know which ones they are. There's not a good. It's not a
Okay.
rich enough
Keep that
log.
open. I'm going to send New Hub a message. Okay. I don't see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we don't have the right scope. That's my assumption. Let's see. There is another scope under subscribe to events on behalf of users that we could try. That's it's very similar. It's also called message channels.
You may also want your app to receive events related to users who have authorized the app and conversations they're part of. Can we just look? I want to look at the bot events and
Yeah, because it doesn't sound right reading that.
a message was posted in a direct message channel. This isn't a direct message, is it? With the bot?
It is. It's a direct message from you to the bot. You look at that. I'm going to pull up some docs on the API on my screen.
That's the only one that jumps out at me as let's change, reinstall while Jimmy looks that up.
Yeah, we can always test a few and see. All right.
So we got the added integration event again. So that worked.
That worked?
Yeah, so adding the instant messages scope for the bot. Now I got the test message that I just typed to the bot. This is a test.
Hey, okay, cool. Can you show me the scope you added? I was looking at the docs when you did that. I'm just curious.
It was
Okay, so
message.im.
Got it. Okay. So we don't need message channels. Maybe that's.
I think I bet if we go to the channel that we added the bot to,
like a random channel the bot's in and it's like subscribing to those messages, I bet.
This one. Can you, the bot, see this? Yep. And
cool.
that came across there.
Okay. So if we ever wanted people to talk to Hub just in random channels, that's the scope you would want.
So these are what the instant messages look like. So let's go over to our spec. Spec requests, Slack. What should we call this? Respond to. Actually, let's just call it.
Do we want this to be just like Hub can respond with a GPT response or other stuff, or is it scoped to just the search?
Let's just do I just called it questions.spec, Slack questions.spec.
Yeah.
That'll give us started.
That makes sense.
Hub can respond to questions via Slack. It responds with an answer when receiving a question via, I didn't realize Slack called them instant messages. So
I love that someone still does.
this is the format of the response.
Of the event they're sending us.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So we basically, all we really want from this is the text the user's querying with. I could see a use case for wanting to know the user.
Yeah. And Slack knows, Hub knows everyone's Slack username.
Oh,
So
sweet.
by looking the person up, by that we'd be able to know who was
That's
asking
cool.
the question.
So many things come to mind. Yeah, we could ask Hub, like, how much vacation do I have left? Like me.
Yeah. Well, you do have to be a little tricky because we don't want to send ChatGPT personal information.
Yes.
So that's the one thing. So we're going to Slack events path params. And then we have an event. And that event is type message because we want to do this only for messages. Mm-hmm. What is the meaning of life? Sure.
Yeah, I think another event type is like reaction. So if someone were to like react to a message, your bot could even do stuff with that.
Okay, so do you know off the top of your head how, when you receive an event, how you're supposed to respond? Do you need to acknowledge it or anything?
Ooh, yeah. So I know there is a time frame that you need to respond in. I'm not sure off the top of my head how long that is. And then there is also a way to instantly reply if you're like, okay, this might take longer than necessary, so it doesn't time out. So we might need to check the docs on that because, I mean, do we know how long it typically takes for the search to respond?
A couple
to
seconds.
A query? Yeah. Okay. So we need to find in the docs how long.
So we are going to, that means we are going to need to know who to respond. We're going to need the user because we need to respond back to the specific user who asked that question.
Yes. You'll need to, I think in the response, you need to include the channel and the user's ID.
So let's just add it to the spec, just so we have it as a thing that's being passed in.
Okay, I want to look at the docs about the timeout.
Actually, there's a channel.
Yes, so that would be, maybe that's the ID of the bot. I think we'll also want the timestamp of the message, maybe.
This event time here?
Yes. It depends on what we want to do with it. Because if we have that, then we could modify like the question the user asked or something if we ever needed to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or if we like wanted to reply as a thread, I think we would also need that. Not that we'll probably want to do that, but. Okay, let me look at the docs about just replying in any timeout.
So do you think it'd be nice to acknowledge the question, be like, I'm looking? Or do you think, well, you had mentioned you could say that the user's typing.
Yeah, so maybe, and I was just going to say, I think we can ignore the timeout thing because I was thinking of / commands. Mm-hmm. That's where the timeout comes into play because you're kind of like waiting for something to happen. I think for us, it doesn't matter. We just respond when we respond. But yes, maybe we should see if that method works for bot users, the typing method I referenced, which is, I forgot what it was called.
So what we want to look up is responding to events, right?
Yes. And then let's see. Yeah, I think it's called like post message. Well, that's the Slack method. Where are you looking at right now? Just
I
the
was
type
looking
of
at the
events.
events documentation, but that's the documentation for an individual event. Here's this matches what we're getting.
Yeah.
And so that's correct. Actually,
Okay.
but we need to know how to respond.
Is there anything down here? Okay. I think it might be post message. We might use that method. What is that on the page you were just on? Let's see. No. Message. User sent a message in app home. So these are just the events that we could receive. This isn't.
I think we want like generic documentation for maybe interactivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. Responding to your users.
Yeah, acknowledgement response is what I was thinking.
Okay, let's see here.
All apps. 200 okay. So
okay.
We are already like by default we're going to respond with a 200 okay.
Cool.
So that's fine. And so I think we want our spec to be successful. And then we don't need to, like, we can do other things. We can send other messages, but for right now, let's just make sure that spec passes because we.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I see Kevin in chat. Had to step away. Is it going well? I would say it's going well.
Yeah. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for watching. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Yeah, what we're doing, if you're just tuning in, we are making a new Slack bot inside of Hub, which is our internal system. Right now, that bot is only used for broadcasting things, and we're going to make it so that you can ask that bot questions, which are going to be answered via a ChatGPT system that we created to answer questions off of our internal documentation. Actually, it's not just internal documentation. If it also looks at our public guides and our public playbook, so you can ask it questions about that stuff too. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to have the bot or this controller is going to initiate answering the question. And
do we want the bot to show it that it's thinking, like typing a response?
So what I'm envisioning we're going to do is we're going to take in the message and we're going to say, okay, this is a message we should respond to.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to kick off a background job, which is going to do the other things. So really all that this should
Cool.
do would be what should we call this? Slack. It'll be like expect Slack job.
Is that when you say background job, that's like a cron job, but a Rails?
Yeah, like a background job that happens outside of the request response cycle.
Cool. Well, not a cron job, that's something on a schedule, I guess. Cool.
And we'll say perform it helps if you perform later. I'm not quite sure what we're going to pass this, but at a minimum, I think we're going to need the question.
Okay, so this is, you're starting to think of what our bot will respond with and refer with.
Yeah, and I think well, we can actually, if we go into the console again, so what I want to do is I want to do this and see if it comes as a direct message to me from the bot. Channel not found. Oh, that's Slack hub test. DMs.
Hey.
Cool. So that came through to me directly under the messages tab for the bot.
Cool. Okay.
So that means to respond, we don't technically need the user, we just need the channel.
That's interesting. How does it know which user sent the message?
So we can pass in the user if we wanted to, but we don't, strictly speaking, need it.
Yeah.
So let's just not do it now. So we're going to allow Slack job answer question to receive perform later. And we're going to see, and this is going to fail because we're not currently doing anything. So yeah, uninitialized constant Slack job answer question. So we're just going to let the specs guide us here. So app jobs Slack job. We already have a Slack job directory because everything is already under Slack job that communicates with Slack. Answer question. I think it needs to end in job actually. Nope, it doesn't. Answer question. Cool. And this is module Slack job.
Got it. Okay, so this is where we will process what they asked and work on the response.
So I'm just creating the class now. I'm not actually writing anything because I don't want to go too far. So it does not implement perform later. So this is just going to be def perform. This is all using active job. So you define a perform method, and then that's going to because it doesn't descend from active job.
Active job's a gem we're using.
It's built into Rails.
Cool.
And we want to descend from safer job because what that does is it catches, if you go to look something up and it doesn't exist, it doesn't, it cleans up the job.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we expected that to be called one time and it wasn't called. And so now we can go over to our controller and if this is this is going to be dangerous because just clean this up a little bit. I remember noting that this is not in the event. Okay, event time is outside of the event hash.
Cool. Okay. You mentioned safer job cleans stuff up. What's an example of something that would get cleaned up?
So if there's an error deserializing the data set given to the background job, it will make the job a no-op. It'll rescue from it and not try, because a by default active job is going to retry failed jobs. But if you fail deserializing something that was serialized, there's not really a way to recover that. So it makes that a no-op, and the job will be cleaned up. And
Got it. Otherwise, it's like running in a loop, and that would be bad.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's just going to do it like 25 times and then stop.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't want it doing it 25 times.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the safer job class does.
Cool.
So it's mostly deserializing stuff. Okay, so now we're going to change our controller
to call our
event
job.
Type is message. I'm pretty sure that that's correct. I'm just going to fix the indentation and then look at the spec. Event text, event text, event channel, event channel. Okay.
Right.
So this is not that great because we're digging it. We're going through here, and there might not be an event.
Okay, so you're assuming the event will always exist.
Yeah. So that would throw, if event doesn't exist, it's going to throw an error there.
Man, JavaScript has a cool escape hatch for that. You just put like question mark when you're digging in the properties, and it will.
Yeah. So if we use the dig method, then we wouldn't have that problem. Because that's going to not error. It'll just give it to us if it exists, and it'll be a nil if it doesn't, and it won't match. So that should be fine. And if we get here, then we know that it already exists. Let's run the specs. I expect them to pass. I was saying, as I was pairing with Joel last week, I like to talk to myself about whether I expect the specs to pass or not, because then when they fail, the cognitive dissonance stands out.
I like that.
Okay, so that passed. The class isn't doing the job's not doing anything yet, but we don't want our request specs to test about what the job is doing, because we want to write a more focused spec around that specific job, and the specs about what that job is supposed to do can be for that.
Cool. Okay.
So spec jobs, Slack job, answer question spec.rb.
So the last spec we wrote is basically just making sure the payload is correct.
Yeah. And actually, now that you say that, yeah, and we expect the response to be successful. And I did it without calling it out when I did it, but I should call it out. I added a head okay here.
Okay.
I bet if I remove that, and this is actually good because we never saw that spec fail because I didn't have head okay. Okay, so is it going to... I'm surprised that passed. I guess by default, Rails is giving a successful response.
I was thinking the same. I guess so.
So we can remove the head okay, and it'll be fine. Okay.
Okay, cool. So this is the job.
This is where this is where the magic happens.
Yeah. I would be very surprised if Copilot's just like, oh, it's done.
Yeah, now see how it wrote a request spec, but that is not at all what we want to have happen. It just copied what we already wrote. So what we wanted to do is it looks up the answer from GPT and responds and sends the response to the channel.
I'm curious how reusable the existing GPT logic is.
I actually, now it's just grasping into this is not at all doing the right thing.
It's just, from the ether. It's like,
yeah, let's go to that. So I don't remember.
Search controller, I think.
You think it is? I don't think it is. No, it's not. Where did I put this?
JavaScript / controller, search controller, I promise. I think there's an ask GPT method in there.
Yeah, what does it do? It makes a request to the prompt URL. Ooh, did I call it prompt?
What are you looking for? Just the, okay.
I'm looking, so we're setting the URL to send the prompt to as a data attribute on the element, and then the JavaScript is reading that so that it can, it's not hard coded in the JavaScript.
Gotcha.
And I'm just looking for where we, what I'm worried about here is this, yeah, this is coming from an environment variable, which to me means that that this place where the prompts are being answered is not hub. Yeah, it's not. It's search. So search is a separate app, a separate Rails app.
Interesting. Is this something that you wrote, thoughtbot made?
Yeah. So search is a separate Rails app. It has a UI for doing searches. It knows how to talk to Elasticsearch. It knows how to index GitHub repositories in Elasticsearch, and it knows how to talk to ChatGPT and give it prompts to answer.
I see. Okay. So it's not all in Hub.
It's not all in Hub. So I think what we want to do is we actually want to do a request to, so Hub knows the URL and it knows the authentication token to use for talking to that separate service that can answer questions. So I think what we want to do is we want to make a new class that knows how to answer questions in Hub, but what it's going to do is use like REST client to actually communicate with the external service.
I see. Okay. So are we kind of making what exists in Hub to answer these queries more usable?
From Ruby, yes. Right now it's only being done from JavaScript directly in the browser to the search service.
Okay, gotcha.
So we can let the specs guide us here. So I don't think there's a search class, and I don't think that there's a prompt. Yeah. So let's call it prompt. A
new class called prompt.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm going to write this using stubbing right now, especially since it doesn't exist. And so what I'm doing is I'm just starting out by writing the specs and stubbing out. I'm essentially defining the API that I'm going to want this class to conform to. So what I want to do is I'm making a new prompt. And so what I envision is like it will receive new and it'll return an instance of that. So then prompt, I'm creating a double.
What here is specific to stubbing something out?
So this is stubbing out a prompt class. It's telling the prompt class that we can receive new, and we're going to return this variable prompt. And I'm then creating a variable prompt that is a double. So it's entirely a class. A mock. That what it does is it has an execute method, and that execute method returns the answer 42.
Cool.
So then, and the way we're going to call this is with perform now, exactly, and the channel. Perfect. And then
being guided by your tests. I like that.
So we'll expect the prompt to have received new with what is the meaning of life, and we expect the prompt to have received execute. So what we're saying is this job, when we execute it, is going to is going to use the prompt class to get an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's going to call the prompt class with the question and call execute to get the answer.
So the meaning of life is 42.
That's right. I didn't come up with that, by the way. That CodePilot started using, we just created an answer question class, and in the tests, it did what is the meaning of life. But, you know.
Yeah. It's starting. Killer robots.
Okay, cool. So now we're going to execute that spec, and it's going to fail horribly. It's going to say that prompt class doesn't exist, I think. Yeah, uninitialized constant prompt. So now we know what to do. We know to create app models prompt.rb and spec for it. Spec models prompt spec.rb.
That's the matter of satisfying our test. Yes.
And so I'm going to write the test first for this. And so I said that it initializes, it is initialized with a question, and it actually describe, execute, it returns the answer given from the search service. So this matches the sort of what I outlined in the other spec for how it should behave.
Okay, but our prompt class still doesn't exist.
It still doesn't exist yet. CodePilot came up with something relatively reasonable there. So this is wrong. Should execute. So we're gonna create it, instantiate. I like that though. Instantiate. I'm gonna start using it. We're gonna instantiate prompt, an instance of the prompt. We're going to execute it, and is going to return. So this is not what we want to do in this spec because it's stubbing the system under test. We are testing the prompt class. We wouldn't want to stub the prompt class in the in the expectation. So what we're going to do, we're going to leave this for now because we don't know what the implementation is.
Yeah.
But we're going to run this spec and it's going to tell us that unexpected file models prompt.rb to define constant prompt, but it didn't. So we know exactly then what to do.
There we go.
And we can run that spec again. It's going to say wrong number of arguments given, 1 for 0. That's because it's just using the default initialize method, which takes no arguments. Initialize.
What's the default number of arguments?
0.
0. That makes sense.
Undefined method question for prompt. So the way I'm going to do that. So this sets the incoming question to an instance variable and then says that instance variable is accessible via a method called question.
Cool. When you're building these specs, how are you thinking app structure wise, like controller, model, class? What order do you work in?
Yeah. So we've gone outside in. So we started at the controller, and then we went down, and then we made a job that then is doing things with models. So we've naturally gone from the furthest boundary of our class, which is the controller, in and spec'd out each level along the way, writing the spec first and then writing that level.
Yeah.
So
and that doesn't
we're at
really
the model level now.
That doesn't really work in reverse, or would it work similarly?
What do you mean in reverse?
If you were to try and describe, like, create this spec for the model first.
You could do it that way, but I find that then you're jumping to what the API needs to be before you've defined the callers. So you totally can do that, but outside in, for me anyway, is much more natural.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is we have the question, right? So what is going to happen here? We're going to take this question and we're going to make an HTTP request to
our search service,
to the search service with at the prompt URL in the environment variable with the auth token. So
okay, that means we might be able to refer to our existing.
I think this app uses REST client. Yes. So what we're going to do is we allow REST client. Yeah, what you're saying is we can go over to the search controller. For example, I don't know whether, so it's a GET request.
Okay.
No, sorry. It's a post with content type, application, a stringified body of the text.
Cool.
So actually so we don't have to, we can just use this as a model for what we're doing.
And I wonder the commit for adding this functionality to Hub was so small. It's just, a lot of it's in that search service.
Yeah. But this one will be small too, because we're still not actually writing the functionality to do the prompts against GPT. We're just doing it off of the existing service that we already wrote.
Yeah. Well, that's a good. Are we going to modify the prompt at all that's sent to GPT? Is that in the search service? Or
the search service is already doing that. The search service is already looking at the repositories of information, pulling out where it thinks the answer might be, then providing that with a prompt to so actually if I go to,
I guess what I was asking, like, is should the answer change, does GPT need to know that the user is asking from Hub directly or from Slack, and could that change the response? I guess not.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. So we're going to REST client to have received post with, here's the syntax for it, URL. Oh, and then params hash. We're going to need to set some headers on that as well. Headers is the third parameter. So we have the URL, we have the body of the request, and then we have the headers for the request.
Okay, cool.
So the URL is going to be prompt URL, exactly.
Yeah,
the params are going to be, yep.
Do we need to call to JSON on that?
Let's look at that. It is stringifying JSON. Yeah, so the body is the JSON string.
Cool. Does the to JSON method make it? It just makes it into a JSON string.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Sweet. And then our header.
It's on hash, so it takes a hash and makes it into a JSON string.
Got it. That's kind of, the naming makes me think it's doing something else almost.
Mm-hmm. So what we have here is the headers. I don't know if these headers are right, that it's auto-completing, but let's see. It was content type.
Application JSON, and then our token.
Yeah, this is not, we need this to be.
Is line 27, is that just short for application JSON?
So, I don't know. Like, maybe.
Yeah.
But we can do this, and it'll be a lot more obvious to me what's happening. So
Magic is
we've got
dangerous.
Post method with headers and the body. What were you saying?
Cool. Just like things like that are kind of magical that you aren't sure about.
Right.
And it's easier to read, as you said, like if another dev comes in here.
Yeah, that's how I feel anyway. What do we got here? Something's complaining about the formatting. Prefer double quoted symbols unless you need, oh, I'm using single quotes. Unnecessary symbol conversion. Use, oh, because there's not an invalid
symbol. Oh, yeah. No quotes necessary. Okay. Neato.
Okay, so we're going to run this. It's going to fail because we're not doing any of this. Okay, it failed for a slightly different. So using allow with the have receive matcher is not supported. I either let CodePilot autocomplete something. This should be, or I mistype something. We're setting things up here. And then
what's the difference between receive and have receive?
So what you want to do is you want to, I'm just going to move line 14 up. You want to set it up, and then you want to expect that it happen. So we're up there, we're just setting up that we are stubbing out the post method. And then we're expecting REST client to have received post. And then with what we did. So then we're saying, okay, it was actually called with the things that we expect.
Nice. Okay.
So cool. So REST client expected it to be, we expected it to happen once and it happened 0 times.
And that's what we expected since we're not actually doing this.
Yeah. So
Perfect.
So now we have a little bit of a choice to make when it comes to testing this class. We need to decide whether we want to, whenever this class is called, have to stub out. Our application specs are not allowed to actually talk to external services. So anytime we actually do an HTTP request to an external service, it's going to throw an error because it's not allowed to do that.
Okay, so we basically need to set up.
We either need to stub it out all the time, or we need to make like a mock service that our specs are talking to.
Okay, is that sort of thing tedious to do or something like this?
So I'll show you an example of, we usually call them fakes. And so here we have a fake Slack service, and you can see it defines how this fake responds to various requests that we make to Slack. Writing a fake, in my opinion, is really worth it when you are doing a lot of communication with something, because stubbing is really tedious. And you don't want, if a lot of things all throughout the application are talking to an external service, you don't want to have to stub it out every time sort of it happens as a side effect of something else you're testing. In this case, I think we're pretty but writing a fake is more overhead. So we want to not do it if we don't need to. In this case, I think the prompt class is going to be fairly isolated. It's only ever going to be called when we are writing questions to the hub bot. And that's not going to be happening as a side effect of using existing functionality in Hub. It's only going to happen when we receive a controller request in. So we can just, I think our specs here can just stub it and it will be okay. And if not, we'll feel the pain along the way, and we can write a fake if we need to. So that means we can go over to our prompt class and write the execute method now. And it's going to autocomplete because we have the other class open right here. It got tripped up for some reason. And in our JavaScript, what's it doing with the body? It's giving it to display response. Display response handles the spinner, and then just marked is a markdown processor. So actually the service is returning a response in markdown. Oh, Jimmy, I can't hear you. You're muted.
There we go. My head, I think swapping it out did that.
So what we're getting back here is markdown text. But we could just, for right now, plop it in. So it's the raw, it's just the response body.
Yeah, because our hub bot it doesn't need to respond with markdown.
So I think if we just return the response body, we're going to get 42. I give it a 75% chance of passing. Okay, so
what is it?
it was not call. It expected one time with those arguments. It received it 0 times. We're never calling execute in our spec.
That would be a good reason.
Yeah, that would be the reason. Okay, I give it an 82% chance of passing now. Undefined body for nil class. So the response is nil there. Did we tell our stub that to return something? No, we didn't. So
that's important. It looks like, yes.
So we want to set up a double, yeah.
I got it. So it was just expecting, or we didn't add the response to the test.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Cool. So now we have a class that knows how to talk with the search service, send. So actually, what's a good way to demonstrate this? If we go in Rails console now.
We can play with it.
It's not running locally. Let's see if it's. No, I don't even have that. Oh, wait.
Is this something that works pretty easily locally?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty lightweight. It's just I haven't done it in a while, so there's a possibility that something wouldn't be set up right. So what we want is prompt dot new. What is the meaning of life? I wonder what this will return when we actually.
Oh, you have the meaning of live. We expect it to not know.
The meaning of life is not provided in the given information.
Okay, that's probably good.
Good.
Yeah.
So actually, this is returning JSON. The real service is returning JSON with the response key.
Okay. Does that mean we need to change one
We
of our
want to
tests?
change our spec.
Yeah.
And it's so there's a couple different ways of writing this. I like to write it with a Ruby hash and then call to JSON in it, so we don't need to write strings, JSON strings in our.
Yeah, because that gets gross really fast.
So this is 42. And then we need to call to JSON on that. Actually, it all fits on one line.
Cool.
So we changed the spec. We didn't change the implementation. And so if we run this now, it's not going to get that. It's going to get the full. Yeah. So it was expected 42. It got response 42.
So we need to go back to this and then call to JSON on that.
Yeah.
Or JSON parse. Okay.
Yeah. So that is going to give us what we expect. Cool.
Very cool. Yeah.
So now if we go back to our console, we're just going to get the response body.
Sweet.
That's really depressing that the meaning of life is not provided in the given information.
I don't know. That's not a benefit of working at thoughtbot, I guess.
I guess not. Let's think of an actual question to ask it.
Can we ask it like, do I have a certain day off or something?
Do I
Do that.
have Christmas off? It's taking a long time. Yes, you have Christmas off. The holiday section states that Christmas Day is a public holiday in all the mentioned countries, including Mexico, Spain, the UK, and Denmark. Specific details for each country can be found in the retrospective links provided.
Ooh, okay. So it's
Mexico
doing some,
benefits, Spain benefits and details,
cool.
UK holidays, Denmark. It's
This
funny
new
it doesn't
line.
list the United States in those,
Oh,
but
weird.
whatever.
Yeah, I'm curious if the formatting of that response will translate.
So this is markdown. So we're gonna when we actually put it for like I think that Slack doesn't do actual markdown, right? Like link format is a different format.
Yeah, they have like their own format for requests. So we'll have to get there. We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah. Cool. So now we're basically all the way down at the bottom of the system now. We just wrote a prompt spec and it's working and it's actually executing questions and returning the answers. I think that's like the actual bottom of the system. So we want to go back one level up to our job.
Okay.
And now we want to see whether this spec passes. It's not, I believe, because we never actually added the wrong number of arguments. So the perform method is empty.
Okay. So this needs to include calling our prompt.
I'm going to not take that. There.
Okay. Why is response squiggly here?
Because it's not it's not
okay.
used. Useless assignment to variable. So that passed because our check, our spec is just saying when you run this job, execute the prompt with the question given. Mm-hmm. Now, what we also want it to have done is send the response to Slack, right?
Yes.
So that is going to be expect Slack client to receive send message with what is the it's actually post.
Yeah, we had that somewhere. Where was that?
Post channel message. Okay. And this is actually allow.
Cool. So yeah, this just had logic to expect sending things. Now we're adding the receiving end things.
And we're not actually doing that yet, so it's going to fail. And then we can go over to our job. And there's a channel and the response. I think that's going to pass now.
If I hopes. Yes.
Okay. So I think there's a possibility that we can now go over to Slack and ask this a question. Oh, wait, we need to go one level up.
I feel like we forgot something. Okay.
Yeah. No, we changed the controller already to perform that job. And that job is asking the question of the search service and sending the response as a Slack message.
Yeah. So we're just not sure what it's going to look like in Slack, the response.
Right.
Cool.
How long is a PDS? Yeah, we're going to need some sort of response there, right? We don't know whether it's actually doing anything or not now. So it enqueued. Oh, I'm running locally, which means it's enqueuing jobs, but it's not executing them.
Okay.
By default, in development, it doesn't execute jobs.
But in your Rails console, it was, or this is
I was calling perform now.
Oh, got it.
I think it's Rails jobs work. Nope.
We need a Copilot for our terminal.
Yeah.
That probably exists.
Okay, so that's not a. Nope. Let's go to the browser.
Yeah.
Rails. Execute.
Perform now? No, that's what you did in the console.
Perform now. We could change it. We actually use Sidekick. Well, we can tell it to.
I see. You can set it. You can set it to perform a minute into the future. But I don't see something to run it right now. You tried rake jobs work, right?
Yeah, it didn't do anything. You can easily. I think what we want to do is use in development. We just want to turn on.
I also see bin/delayed job start, but that might be another.
Yeah, we're not using delayed job in this application. We don't want to set up a new queuing.
Is there a way to just change the local devs behavior for now and resend a question?
Yeah, if we change this to perform now, it'll execute the job immediately. It's just not gonna. We don't want to keep it that way. Where am I? Here we go.
And the reason we wouldn't want to keep it that way is because with tests, we wouldn't want it to actually.
In production, actually, it will potentially time out the response if it takes too long to respond. So, since we're communicating with the external service, particularly ChatGPT, which can be really slow, we don't want to risk that the request times out.
Gotcha.
Cool. So. What is happening? It's responding multiple times.
No, kill it. It's
still going. Where is it coming from? Oh, I didn't actually kill it. I just stopped the log. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. What caused that?
That was awesome.
Well,
Well, it got the right answer.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Really
It's
asserted
interesting that it responded with that it couldn't be found at first. And then went off the rails.
Nice fun. So that seemed to be in.
Let's look at the log here.
Was it the search service that was like in a loop almost?
If we look at the job or the log for hub, it received the event request.
Mm-hmm.
It then did the job, and then we got another. You see, we got another request with
Oh,
the
you know what's
question, but I'm just
happening?
wondering what's happened.
I think what's happening is the bot is seeing the response from the bot as another question. Maybe? How would we test that?
Is
I feel like
that
we would have noticed that sooner.
yeah? So yeah, you're right. So the message is the length. Yeah, the message that's coming across is the message itself, the response. So we only want to respond if
The user is not the bot.
the user is not the bot.
Mm-hmm. Cool. That's why the answer changed too, because it was effectively a different question.
So
Weird.
I'm looking at the log here, and this user is this, but I'm wondering whether that's going to change.
So I
and
also
whether we should be
see,
doing app ID.
yeah, I think app ID you might want to send your, do you still have a question from yourself in the logs? See if app ID is in there. Because it might just be referencing the app. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, but this is not. This is the repeated one. We need to go to the original.
Oh, okay. If it's still in there, yeah.
That was exciting.
Mm-hmm. It was 26 times.
We're almost there. I have a sense. Okay. How long? So there's nothing about
There's no app ID.
right.
Cool. Yeah, I
There's
think
a user.
okay. I think either is safe because I've never seen a user ID change.
We can just check to see whether there's an app whether there's an app ID at all, right?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
So it's inside of the event.
I'm also curious if this is, well, we only subscribe to 2 types of events.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a way to like manually turn off the bot from seeing its own messages.
So
This would be at the top level, right? And we would just want to basically.
It should not respond to messages
Yeah.
from bots, from apps. So then it was inside the event, actually. It wasn't at the, and it was app ID, right? Yep, app_ID.
I'm just checking our Slack app on the website to see, because this might be one of those event subscriptions that we added first that didn't work when we sent a message. I don't know if there's a downside of listening to too many events. Our app would just receive stuff that it doesn't need to. So we might want to turn that off.
Or turn off what?
I think we might have added an event subscription that was basically the bot seeing its own messages. So we might be able to turn this off at like the configuration level.
Okay. I wrote the spec, and the way you write the spec is it should not have receive perform later. And it passes now, even because we changed it to perform now.
Oh.
So that's gonna fail. Cool. So then we only want to do this.
Oh, good job, Copilot.
If it's nil. I wouldn't actually write it this way, to be honest. But we can refactor. We'll go red, green, refactor.
Cool.
So this should pass. Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to check later and see if
so now I'm going to turn this back to now.
Cool.
And we can go back to our bot and we can ask it the question again, and it should only respond once. How long is a PDS?
Did we restart the search service?
Hub is what I killed, and I did not restart it.
Oh, okay.
Call. Yeah, there's bad gateway. Wonder if we need to do it again.
Probably, yeah. No?
Okay. Well, it only did it once.
Cool.
I wonder how long is a product design sprint? Oh.
Huh.
Let's look at the log and see what happened there. So
I see it. This is it right here. How long is a product design sprint? And then, okay. And then it said the answer cannot be found in the product design sprint section. But in Slack, you also received this, didn't you?
right.
Just now?
Right.
And then you received 2 messages about a product design sprint. Something shot off 2 messages when it should have sent 1. Okay, so here's the first one, and I only see one.
No, it's hold on one sec. Let me scroll up. See, it's
Oh,
twice.
oh, yep,
It's
okay.
twice.
So I see stuff between this two. So what happened here? The template found for Slack events controller rendering had no content. Is any of that relevant to this?
Yes, it is. So
Okay.
we're supposed to respond with a 200 success,
Oh, so we
and we're
still.
responding to a 4 no content.
So what's happening is
So I
Slack
think
is
Slack is
resending.
retrying.
Got it. Yeah. So that means we probably need to add. What was that we had here before we deleted it?
Is
To be successful or something?
yeah, but I'm wondering whether be successful actually looks for any 200 response and not a specific 200 response. So let's write a more explicit spec.
And this is something we want to happen right after the users, right after we receive the question. So in the controller, right?
Yeah. To be I actually don't know whether it's like code. Let's try that and see what actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
I changed it back to perform now.
Really, we need to change it somewhere else.
We could also just change this right here to. We need to change it in both places where we set it up and where we expect it.
That might have been the last
Okay,
one.
cool. So we expected 200, got the string 204. So it is response.code. So I'm just changing it to a string since it's going to be a string. And now if we go over here, we want to respond. Let's see if head okay responds with a 200. I'm not sure. I think it's going to be. Sorry,
okay.
Go ahead.
So the 204 came from
Rails' default response if you don't give anything.
Got it. Okay, so that's why Slack was like pinging us back.
Yeah, I suspect that that's the reason why. And so now we have head okay, and it's responding with 200.
Cool.
So now if we go to Slack, hopefully we won't get a double response.
How long is a product discovery sprint?
Oh, it's how long is a?
It's like, okay, awesome. Cool.
Yeah, it's like, wait for it. Okay, good.
Sweet. This is cool. So I think maybe we just need to add something so the user like knows how it's thinking.
Yeah, and the formatting. But we have
we
have about a half hour left for today. So what do we think is more achievable? I think, or at least more interesting. I think something that acknowledges the user.
Yeah.
I think that is probably more important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've seen there are two ways I kind of looked at. We could try to see if the bot can send an event that shows that it's typing, or another method is like you just send a message really quick that's like 3 dots or something.
Or react to the message.
Yeah.
That's another thing I've seen.
Because you could like respond with 3 dots and then the bot would edit that to be the response. Or I think the coolest way is to see hub typing, if we could do that. but I don't know if that's a method the bots can do. Or only.
So it works with the real-time messaging.
Okay. Are we using a real-time messaging?
We're not currently doing that. So this is an event that you receive. So do you also send events?
That's a good question. Okay. There's typing. Yeah, we need to Google. There's a way to show that the bot is typing, maybe. Okay, I see something on GitHub issues on my screen, but yeah, let's look.
There is no way to do this through the Slack API at this time.
Okay,
One option would be to send a message that just said ... and then replace the message.
That's not as cool, but we could do that. It is not
as cool.
And that was in what, a year ago?
Unfortunately, it's not available in the Events API or the Web API. The RTM API is deprecated and only available with classic Slack apps.
Maybe at one point we can use the real-time messaging API. But
yeah, the only approach that we can suggest is use chat.update API to reflect progress in the same message.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so let's
So I think, yeah, we're already using post message, right? We would just need to implement post update to update the posted message with the response.
Right.
With a little change.
I don't think the existing Slack client knows how to, like the Slack wrapper class that we have knows how to do that. It posts, fetches profiles, active members, direct group messages, and checks whether a channel is accessible. So we can add that. That should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So if we go to our spec, what we want to do is the job itself is going to if it's going to have received it to the channel with ...
Yeah, so okay, we're basically just duplicating that.
And then I think it needs to be like update.
Yeah, and this is when we might need the timestamp of the message, but we shall see.
I actually don't know what we need for it at all. So let's go to the Slack. Oh, that's the calls API.
We can go to interactivity maybe. That was somewhere that was useful earlier, right here.
Yeah. I think that's for buttons and stuff, actually.
Responding to users. And we did this. Message responses. What about updating a message? Updating a source message in a response. No. Yeah. Oh, I saw chat update method.
Yep.
Let's look at this real fast.
So it's the, yep.
Okay.
So the concept of the ephemeral message, that's really interesting too. We could potentially use that.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing, right, where it's only you can see it. I don't think ephemeral messages are a thing if you're just talking to the bot.
Okay.
That's more of like that's. I'm trying to think of a use case. That's like
Yeah.
you could use the slash command to ask Hub something in a random channel, and it would reply just to you, and you would see it only.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the chat update method takes. You need to have chat right.
Yeah, they should have the. Yep. Okay. So we'll have to add well, I think we might already have that for sending a message, right? Channel, the timestamp. So that's how Slack identifies messages, is by the timestamp. Cool.
Okay. So we can go over here and we're going to need Slack client to
yeah, we just want to add the
so yeah, it
update
should be
method here.
responding with the message. So that's fine. So we need to say I actually don't know what the here, let's go to a console.
Are you trying to figure out how we'll call it?
Actually, what the response is. Remember, it's a big event object.
Okay. The structure of that, yeah.
So
Timestamp.
When we send a message, the timestamp is TS in the response. Cool.
Yeah, this kind of shows you how Slack formats stuff. It's like this concept of blocks. Interesting.
Okay, so now we're saying when you call Slack client with post, you're gonna get a response, and it is a hash that includes a TS key with a timestamp.
Okay.
And then what we should have received, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna call update with. You need the channel and the timestamp and then the body.
The new body. Sweet.
So then we're going to run those specs. They're totally going to fail.
This will fail, yeah, and tell us that we don't have update in our Slack client, right?
It's actually, it expected ... and it got 42, which makes sense because we didn't change.
Yep.
So what we need to do here is we need to now call, and then this is the,
this would call .update, right?
Yeah. Processing, what do we want to call this? Processing message.
Sure.
And then we're going to call .update. And it's the processing message. TS. With the response.
Okay, cool.
85% chance of passing. Undefined method update. Oh yeah, it was 0%
There we go.
chance of passing.
Yeah,
We
we're
don't
still
even
not
have
there.
an update method.
That should be pretty simple though.
Client spec. So we want to. So we're gonna copy the post here.
Cool. And we can use that as our template for update.
So this is, remember I mentioned we're using a fake for the Slack specs because so much stuff communicates with Slack as a side effect of operating.
Cool.
So this takes update and it's a channel and then a timestamp. And a message. So the way a fake will typically work is it will build up, it will like basically record the responses it's getting. So I think we want to do this as like updates.
Interesting.
Channel.
Okay. And you want to change the it as well.
Cool. Good call.
Updates the message using the timestamp or something. Channel and timestamp.
And updates.
We don't need that last one, right?
Right.
Cool.
We actually might. So that parse flag is like telling it whether to parse the text as markup.
Okay.
But let's see. So now if we go over to fake Slack. Basically create a place to store the updates.
Cool.
Do you remember the it was chat.update or
I think it was just update.
And basically we just shove the raw params, they'll be parsed as a hash onto the updates.
Okay, cool.
Thing, and then that way you can inspect them, basically make sure that.
That's not bad.
And then self.updates to an empty array every time we reinitialize the fake.
Cool.
We never added, undefined method update for Slack client. So we modified the spec, but we didn't.
Yeah, that makes sense. Still have to actually add this.
Timestamp message. In theory, we should support this updates. The attachments.
Agreed. Okay, cool. And then.
So here we're actually going to that gem.
Oh, okay, so it might be a little different.
Usage. It mostly like does what it's expecting. So I think this was probably fine. And if it's not, it'll be sort of obvious what's happening. So channel, text, and then it's TS, right?
Yeah.
We'll leave the error handling.
Cool.
Just in case. Let's see if that passes. Going to be down to the wire here, Jimmy.
Yeah, I know.
expected to have received update, but that object is not a spy. Cool, I didn't set it up to receive update. And it doesn't return anything that we care about right now.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Lowercase c.
Oh, I've noticed Copilot doing that. Weird.
Did I type that? I might have just typed it though. Okay, so that passed.
Sweet.
So it update. Now we wrote it against a fake, so we don't know that it actually works the way that we're expecting. But I think the pieces are in place. So if we go back over to the browser, well, we could just ask it the same question again.
No time. Okay.
We got 3 dots.
Cool. Oh. It's going crazy again. Interesting. Okay, it did stop.
So it got an error performing Slack job, uncaught throw error, required arguments, text, attachments, or blocks is missing.
Okay, so our update method probably wasn't quite right.
So what this error is coming from is that attachments is required there.
Okay, and we can just maybe pass an empty array like we were before.
Yeah.
Or nil, actually. Okay.
I like how it eventually just was like, Slack was like, never mind, forget it. I'm not going to ask you this question anymore. It errored a bunch of times and then it gave up. I wonder if Slack like does 5 retries or something like that. It looks like it.
For sure. Yeah, I think it does a few. I think it worked, and then it just started. It's really excited about our 3 dots. Okay.
See, it's returning head no content again. Oh, the event. I don't see. Oh no, there's app ID. Okay.
Oh, you thought that was missing, maybe?
Yeah. So we're getting an error. It is throwing an error. Required arguments, attachments. Oh, is that from before?
Yeah, is there a way to maybe clear this and try it one more time? So we have a clear. Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
Is it still responding?
Going. We can
That's really odd. That means Slack is still sending us requests, maybe?
So I'm killing the server.
Okay. All right.
So.
Okay, it worked again, and then it's still.
So it's still throwing an error, and it's uncaught argument, required arguments, text, attachments, or blocks is missing.
And that is from the
chat client line
update.
20. Oops.
Okay.
Chat client line 22.
We can do this. Or we're giving it everything. Maybe, oh, okay, we're assuming this is the same though. We might want to look at the docs for the for updating a message, right? Because maybe it's different. Not these docs, right? The docs for the Slack gem or the Ruby gem for updating. There should be a update in here somewhere.
That just goes to there. I think if we do so at least one of if options attachments is nil, throw that. So yeah, I think we actually want an empty array then, or we can try an empty array.
Okay, that's so odd because the post message has a nil, but let's try an empty array. It says at least one of attachment blocks text.
Oh, yeah, we are providing text.
Mm-hmm.
Options text. We're providing text. Let's go to the code.
Yeah.
Channel timestamp message is the order. Channel timestamp message. Channel timestamp message, and then channel.
Yeah. So everything's in the same order.
And then channel timestamp message.
I'm just going to look at the issues on GitHub while you're looking at that.
Sure.
But
I'm just going to look at what the timestamp is.
okay.
This is interesting. I don't know why. Oh, it's still going.
Weird. The odd thing is that it looks right and then it just doesn't stop responding with R.
Yeah, I think we're just missing something. With our so answer question is in queued with arguments nil and then yeah. So the message changed event is coming through as an event of type message. Subtype message changed.
Okay.
But app ID is present. So I think what's happening, let me kill the server because it's I think what's happening is type as message and app ID. So it's getting to the bottom of this and it's responding with, I saw no content for 204, no content.
Okay, so this that needs to be updated maybe for a message event as well.
I think we just always want to respond with head okay.
Yeah.
We should have written a spec for that, but it's 7 minutes until we're done. So
We can do it.
let's see if we. Okay, I already restarted the server.
If we get close enough for a work in progress PR, I'm satisfied. Duh.
It's still going. It's still saying required arguments text. See, I wouldn't have thought that. It looks to me like it's reprocessing the messages from the with an app ID, but it shouldn't be doing that.
Go back to the code real fast. Because we're saying, because this won't be satisfied because it's message event, right? And then it's just going to respond with 200.
It is a message. Here's what we're.
Or message changed, I mean, sorry. Because we have now we have message and message changed that are both coming through.
Right. Here's the parameters. And I think people in the right half of the screen is cut off for people. So this will help them to be able to see.
Okay, Kevin in chat said, if it is sending in the message change message back to you, then there may be no text on the second message send. Oh.
So this is the message changed subtype. It's type message send. But the reason why I didn't think it should process this is because app ID is not nil.
Mm-hmm.
And we're saying don't do things.
Is app ID in the same place? Like, will the stick still catch that? You would think it would be.
Event subtype. Yeah.
Okay. You could throw a debugger in there.
Event app ID is nil. Then do it.
Kevin said, yeah, you have to check the subtype. That is the original one.
But you see, it's getting that and it's trying to it's initiating the job again, even though according to my logic, according to what I'm seeing, it shouldn't do that.
Yeah, so somewhere, we're not catching it somewhere, or we're...
Yeah, something's not matching these conditionals the way that we're expecting.
Would you debug this now? And like, you could throw a debugger in here, right? And look in there, look at the message.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that it's set up actually.
Okay.
We can give it a try, but I don't know that it's set up.
wasn't super helpful.
So it's on this if here, but we should have. Yeah, I'm not in a context here where I can type.
Yeah,
I'm
you
in
can't
the
actually look at
bin
it.
dev thing.
Kevin said, I'm thinking that you're processing a message again and starting the job without text. ET is over mind. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I think you're right, Kevin, but I don't see where it's happening. I'm thinking that you're processing a message again and starting the job without text. I think that that's right. I don't see why
We could just throw a and text in here. I don't see how because what's happening is the param of text is getting sent as nil, right?
Yeah.
So we should just be able to get around this. And if it still does it, then it's a mystery.
We'll clean this up and refactor it into an actual thing.
Mm-hmm. One minute. Huh. Okay.
So that's interesting. So here is how long is a product design sprint comes in.
Mm-hmm.
The message changed event comes in with an app ID defined. It doesn't do anything. It just responds. It doesn't queue the job,
Mm-hmm.
which is what we expect. But then another ... is sent.
Huh. Off the top of my head, I don't really know. It's all, man, that the updating of a message, trickier than we thought.
Well, if instead of updating the message, we just send two messages saying, good question, let me look up the answer for you.
Yeah.
And then send a message with the answer. But yeah, we can debug this and figure out what's happening.
Yeah.
Maybe on the stream next week. Mike, thank you very much for the kind words. I appreciate it. It's fun to do. And this is like real work that we do anyway. So it's fun to dive in and make it happen. Kevin, thank you very much for your help. Sorry we didn't figure it out, but I'm sure we will eventually. And Jimmy, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
No, you've been a great spirit guide in the Rails world. I love it's been great watching like test-driven development. And we're nearly there, so I feel good about this.
We are, yeah. I hope everyone has a great weekend. We will be back next week, and at least on Thursday and Friday, but there's a chance that we'll be streaming throughout the week as well. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and everybody have a great week. Thank you again, Jimmy.
Thanks, y'all. Thank you.
Bye.